Wait, so how do we know when they start?
2, 1, go.
Okay, hi, welcome everyone. This is our last session of Mozilla Open Leader 6. And we're gonna have some presentations today, but first, just as a reminder, the vision of Mozilla Open Leaders is to strengthen open projects and communities around the world. Abby and I will be your hosts today, and we're in week 14, final demo call. So before we get going, just a reminder about the community participation guidelines. So in brief, be respectful, honest, inclusive, accommodating, appreciative, and open to learning from everyone else. And do not attack, demean, disrupt, harass, or threaten others or encourage such behavior. So before we get going with our 2-3 minute project presentations, we'll take, as we've done many times in the past, some time for silent Google Docking. And now if you scroll down in a document to the section that says Friends of Mozilla, you can fill out anyone that you want to pay special thanks to here. So any new contributors to your project, anyone who did some awesome work that you want to highlight here, please take a couple of minutes, just type that down, and they'll see it, they'll have a small shout out. And then we'll continue. So a couple of minutes.
While they're silently Google Docking, I want to go through these favorite moments of OL6 because they're very exciting to me.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
John says, taking pride in seeing what everyone's building, getting feedback. So many awesome folk. Nice. Michael, getting to see the scope of the open movement firsthand at MozFest. Yeah, MozFest is great. So glad you're able to join there and see, like, yeah, the energy of the movement. I wrote all the WOLObies logos I got made. This was my favorite moment of this cohort, I think. You all showed up for making logos. None of the other cohorts made more than one logo. Your cohort made 3 logos, so it was very impressive. And I think you came up with a pretty good name, WOLObies. I don't know why we never thought of that one before. Joel says, taking pride of everyone's ideas and opinions in the Google Doc notes. Yep. Chad, rad, constructive feedback and suggestions from participants. Yeah, it's been great seeing your feedback and suggestions. And Melissa saying, meeting people working on similar projects, aka finding out that my ideas aren't crazy.
That's always nice.
Oh man, that's good. Anyone want to vocalize what they put down or add anything else? I think we have a little bit of extra time since I forgot this cohort normally starts 5 minutes late, but we're right on time today.
We're 12 people now, so I'm getting
yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, 13.
They're popping up.
Okay, I think I'll go through the shout outs that we have here, and then we'll get going. So Lucas is getting special thanks for being a great mentor and also friendly. That's really good. Daniela is getting a special thanks for her outside help plus major cheerleading. And Athena, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, great mentor. And then at Penny, important Datan Guide contributor, great mentor and supporter. And finally, Grant is getting a great mentor shout out as well. Okay, thanks guys for sharing that. And thanks for everyone who was a great mentor, supporter, cheerleader, and everything else that you were. So let's get going with our project presentations. First up, we have Psych.ds, which is Melissa's presentation. So we'll take, you have 2-3 minutes, and don't worry too much about the time because we don't have that many presentations. So like, don't stress through it. And then everyone who's here and on the live stream, please think of some questions to ask and afterwards, and we'll have a little Q&A when Melissa is done. So Melissa, take it away.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I am really happy to have the chance to be able to talk a little bit about what I've been doing with Psych.ds with the Open Leaders program over the past few months. I've learned a ton. I'm really excited for where this project is going. So PsychDS stands for Psychology Data Standards. It's a project I'm working on with other researchers in psychology and nearby fields to define a common and machine-readable structure for sharing psychological data sets. So in September, PsychDS was a mailing list with 6 people on it and no project name. So we have now a name. We also have a beta version of the completed specification, a community of about 40 contributors, and also funding from the Mozilla Open Source Support Program to develop our validator and promote adoption in the scientific community. And our next big project that we're getting ready to launch on is actually applying the specification to a set of actual real data sets so that we can find out what works about the specification and what doesn't, and what happens when we try to apply it to different kinds of data sets. So just a little bit of background. In the past decade or so, psychology has been confronting this big crisis in how we replicate our science. So not only, what happens the next time we try to do the experiment, but also just how can we show that our analyses came out the way that we thought that they did. We can actually kind of establish that, sort of paper trail from the data set itself to the conclusions that we draw. And as our field norms change towards sharing in this way, we're finding that just throwing a spreadsheet online somewhere isn't enough. So we're kind of doing our best in the absence of a common target. But it's important to remember that like that classic APA journal article that we all probably learned in high school, so like introduction, methods, results, discussion, that had to be invented and adopted by a community. There's a paper from 1989 that laid that out, right? Where prior to that, people were just kind of doing their best to express what they'd done in a project. So we know that we need more. And we know that, in the 21st century, we need something that's machine readable. We need programmatic access, not just to the idea that there's a data set here, but also what you might be able to expect inside it, how you can use it, how you can cite it, and so on. So the audience for PsychDS is really people like myself 6 months ago. So people who don't know what a technical specification is, but recognize that we have a ton to gain from adopting standardized ways of representing our data and the metadata, from preventing errors in our own work to conducting automated meta-analyses to actually being able to discover each other's data sets on search engines like the Google dataset search. So Mozilla Open Leaders has given us the chance to meet a ton of people involved in similar projects, make connections, and define kind of very specific goals for how we want to bring this project forward. We're really excited. Right now is actually a great time for people who are not specifically research psychologists to jump in, because we have these data sets that are like pretty close to being ready and need to take that final step to actually meeting the specification. So we're really eager to find out if the specification is actually usable to achieve that. So please go ahead and sign up. I put some links in that Google Doc that we're all reading along with. And I'm also happy to take questions now if anybody has any.
If you have a question, just unmute yourself and shout it out.
I'm signing up now.
Okay, I have questions. So, yeah. So what does it mean when you say you're going to apply this specification to a data set? Do you have to actually transform the data, or do you just like enhance it with metadata?
So that's a great question. So we anticipate, eventually we're hoping that this can kind of be like the initial form that when you first acquire your data, it's already in this form. But that's obviously not the case right now. And in many cases, people are going to have something that can't be converted to kind of standard spreadsheet because it isn't a spreadsheet. Like, let's say it's a bunch of pictures of, questionnaires that people actually filled out. Yep. So the way the specification is set up, you've got your place where you put your raw data, and then there's a subfolder inside of it where you have whatever the original form is. So what we're doing right now is we're plonking that original spreadsheet, however it looks, into that kind of seed folder, and then we're kind of expanding it out to make a full PsychDS data set, which includes that kind of specially formatted data file itself, JSON metadata, which is just another kind of text file that lets us represent that information, and a standard set of folders. Okay,
so the raw data is essentially going to remain whatever it was, remain heterogeneous across projects, but then you have a standardized skeleton around that.
Yeah, it's like this little nub of kind of whatever it is, and then we kind of build out that around it. Yeah.
Okay, that's a cool way of approaching it. You mentioned the Google database search? Mm-hmm. Is that? Yeah. I don't know how it looks in psychology. Is there like a centralized repository where most people can upload it? Is this something you want to address, or is Google addressing it?
So there's kind of two pieces there. So on the one hand, schema.org defines a dataset specification, which is fairly skeletal at the moment, right? So we are schema.org compliant, but we are already going beyond it because it doesn't provide some of the basics that we need, but we are kind of attempting to kind of meet that standard. So that's the metadata side. And then on the other hand, there are a few kind of standard repositories. A growing one, which is really exciting, is the Open Science Framework, which is a project of the Center for Open Science, which is a place that you can upload your data. But they, I think very smartly, have taken this approach where they've made it just like you can fall off a truck and share your data on OSF, right? Like you can upload it in any format. There are no particular requirements about how or in what format you share it, what kind of documentation you provide. So it really helps people get over just the barrier of the idea of sharing your data set publicly.
Yeah.
But they're in very, very wide formats. I hope that eventually that an option that OSF will have, for instance, is one where you can say, like, you know, this is a PsycDS formatted data set with a validator that will check, like, did you actually provide everything that you're supposed to provide with that? Maybe some help transforming it into that one. Because ideally, like, at the moment, you see all of OSF, you can search for, you know, just like kind of raw text strings or whatever title someone happened to give. But you should be able to search for, you know, any data set that has more than 50 participants, any data set that has a column that records people's height, right? Any data set that expresses some piece of information in milliseconds, right?
Yeah,
that's the type of thing we'd like to be able to do.
That's cool. I wish this existed in my field. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Does anyone have any other question? Otherwise, we'll move on.
I had one more question.
Oh, yeah. We have
I see
a hand, Simon. Yeah.
Oh, maybe Simon can ask this question. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I was wondering, I mean, Melissa, you're a researcher yourself, right? So how does that reflect on your own work? So is this something that you can immediately use in your work? Or is it more a theoretical thing?
It's something that I can absolutely use in my work. Essentially, what the PsycDS does is to replace a lot of the initial data cleaning that I find myself always doing. Anytime I start a new project, I have to decide, you know, where am I going to put my data? I kind of make a series of decisions, however, at the beginning of the project. And then after I acquire my data, I actually try to, you know, read it into, let's say, R to analyze it. And I discover that I need to, you know, figure out what each variable means, or I need to, you know, figure out, you know, if I have missing data, you know, how do I know what that missing data is, for instance? And basically what PsycDS does is it gives me some guidelines for how to make those initial decisions about how I represent my data so that my life will be easier early on. And then I also hope that I share my data sets, and my hope is that if I'm sharing them in this standard way, that people will find them and use them more often.
Great. Thank you, guys. And we'll move on. And anyone who want to check out PsycDS more, you have the links in the Google Doc. Let's go ahead and click them. So we're going to move on to Michael and rapid reviews for Outbreak Science.
Hello, thank you. My video is not working today, apparently, but I want to show some slides, so hopefully this will work. And you'll be able to see them. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
You're in presenter mode, though, or the edit mode?
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. So these are data from the 2014 Ebola outbreak in West Africa in red on the top, and in green is data on scientific publications related to that. Now these are aligned in time. So what you can see here is that all the publications related to Ebola happened, the majority of them happened well after the outbreak was over. So we couldn't use this science to help fight the outbreak. This is something that we need to change. So more and more people are scientists are starting to post their manuscripts before peer review so that they're available earlier, and it's usually 6 months, but it can be up to a year or more earlier when that research is available, and it's open as preprints, it's open publicly and open to everyone, so that everyone has access to that information. But by peer review and editing that happens with the journals also plays a role, and it helps filter the information so that people can understand what the most important research results are, which isn't going to be true if we just have preprints and coming out like potentially hundreds or thousands at a time. So we need to build something that can help us address this challenge. So that's really what the point of this project was. There was supposed to be another slide there, which is called Rapid Reviews for Open Science. And our goal is really to make a system that people can provide rapid, structured content type reviews to give feedback and provide context for preprints as they're coming out. So providing a system for people to filter the research in real time as it comes out. Oh, there it is. So we've accomplished a number of things over the last few months, which we're really quite happy about. So the first thing was that I created a prototype. This is sort of what that prototype looks like. So when a new preprint is posted, we wrote a little like software bot that detects it, sends out a tweet that has a link to a Google form. The Google form then just has a series of structured questions, things like, did this preprint contain new data? Do the results, would they be of interest, like a broad scientific interest or interest only a specific group of people? And then when people submit the form, there's another bot that spits out a tweet that has like some basic information that comes out of that form. Now, this is just sort of a very basic first step prototype. Having tweets about this information is helpful, but if we can have like a more comprehensive system where you can ingest this kind of information in all sorts of ways and use it for search criteria and that kind of thing, it'll be much more useful. So one of the next things we're working on is to develop an app that can actually do that. One of the other things that we accomplished was that we found a great partner, Pre-Review, which has come out of previous Mozilla Open projects. And we wrote a proposal together with them to the Wellcome Trust, and we just found out that it got funded. So now we actually have funding to pay for developers, which is going to make us sort of change the way that we're dealing with this and really focus on managing the development of the project, but also on like making sure that we get the user stories right. Because that's really what, connecting this to the science is a really critical part to make sure that this works. On that front, we've also been doing some work. So I've been talking with a number of different people who would have different perspectives and ways to engage with this kind of information. Here's just an example of them. So there's researchers who might use this kind of tool to identify data, methods, code, and things that they could use in their own research. Journals, which want to provide as much context as possible, both to new preprints that they're considering to review, but also in publications that had preprints first or maybe have new ones, because it's giving more information than what from a broader group than what you get in a typical like peer review and editorial process. And then also public health officials who need to find the latest research and use that to help inform the outbreak responses. So this is something that we're continuing to work on. And then lastly, this is where kind of we see things going. So in a few years, we'd like to be in a place where all outbreak science is available through immediate open preprints. And scientists who are reading those are providing rapid open structured reviews, and the content of that is immediately available to everyone so that everyone can quickly identify the most important research to help fight outbreaks. On the bottom, I've shown sort of what a prototype of this might look like. I just made up these badges. So these badges would be based on the preprint information that's coming in, and they could be incorporated in all sorts of different places where preprints might be of use. So on the left is bioRxiv, one of the main preprint servers for this kind of research. On the right is a PLOS Journals platform by a traditional sort of scientific publisher, traditional but also very forward-thinking one. And this is kind of the information that they could then incorporate with that. So lastly, our Twitter handles down there at the bottom as we sort of move through this, and we are actively moving now that we have funding. It's a blessing and not a curse per se, but it's going to make us start working real hard on this. So I expect there will be more there, and we'll have advancements. And especially if you're a scientist, you can also go in through Twitter and find the prototypes and start filling in some of the rapid reviews that we have now and give us feedback on that, because that feedback is really critical too. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm finding out about all these projects I need to check out after this call. Does anyone have questions for Michael? Sorry.
I just see a lot of congratulations in the doc.
Yeah, it's so cool that you got funding from the Wellcome Trust.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that.
I understand. I can ask some questions again because I thought this was very interesting. So this rapid reviewer thing, does it mean anyone can be a rapid reviewer and fill those things out?
Yeah, so we haven't sort of fully figured that out yet. But the definitely what we're thinking is that, like, at least for the first go, it should be scientists, because there's a lot of sort of like real like scientific questions that you want to ask there, like things like do the results support the conclusions, which really takes sort of like, if you have a bit of subject matter expertise, you're sort of better equipped to understand what that means in scientific terminology. And so I think that there's room to be more broad than that. But if we can just do that, we're already going to be providing a big benefit.
Okay, yeah. And I guess if people submit like conflicting reviews, I mean, these questions are a bit technical, sorry, but I'm just interested, what happens if there are conflicting views on the same paper? Do you just like average them out, or?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, the way it's currently set up is that it only gets sort of a flag for something good if more than 50% of the reviewers have said that. But the idea is that also you'd make all of the data available so that if you can see that there's conflicting reviews, like anyone can see that or find that information. And I think that's actually like potentially a super useful thing, because if you're getting lots of reviews and they're conflicting, like that's a really good sign that maybe you need more in-depth peer review, and some like the traditional publishing process should really be looking at that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And how do you see this tie in with, because I know there are some, I think there's some of the publishers, or there's just some initiatives where people want to try to use like text mining machine learning approaches to kind of assess how statistically sound the analysis in the paper is and things like that. Is this something you see in the future that you guys can also benefit from, or are you're more focused upon people reviewing these things?
So no, I think that those, so like some of the preprint servers are already running certain like, checks for like profanity and plagiarism and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
I think as systems to do sort of automatic checking develop, like that's something we could certainly incorporate in this or make complementary to it.
Okay, cool. Does anyone else have any questions? I don't want to take up all the time.
I'm curious if you've thought about working with either graduate students or kind of other training opportunities, or like using this tool as a way for students to learn how to review papers, right? So you mentioned that there are these kind of really deep questions that you need to answer about these papers. But you could potentially, I guess I could imagine a scenario where you have people who are identified as being like very, very, very expert, or people who are learning and trying to improve their judgments, or, converge on similar answers that other people are giving.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think that's actually like kind of at the core of not our mission per se, but the pre-review mission, who are like our partners in actually developing this. So they're really focusing a lot on helping people learn how to do peer review by peer review on preprints. So that's going to be, something that's like incorporated sort of in the core of the way that we develop this.
More questions or comments? Sorry, I can't see the gallery. So if you have a question, just say it out loud. I can't see if you're raising your hand. No? Okay. Then thank you so much again, Michael. This is cool. I'll check this out afterwards. And we'll move on to the next presenter, which is María Romero, and the project is Escuelas. And you can, sorry. I skipped one, sorry. The next presenter is Vishal, and the project is Teach the Web Without the Web. So please go ahead, Vishal. Is he in the call? Yeah.
Vishal, we can't hear you. Try speaking. Ooh. Oh, there you go. There was something. Wait. Very, very quiet.
Hello?
Yes, that's pretty good.
My headphones are not working, so I'll have to be very close to the laptop now. So can you hear me now?
Very faintly.
Very faintly. Try speaking a little slower and closer. That might help.
Now? Am I audible now?
That's pretty good. Do you want us, we could move you to the end if you want to try getting your headphones to work, or you can try like this.
I'll try it now.
Okay. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, okay. So, basically this is just an idea that like internet is a very basic resource, and everyone basically, we are on the movement where we want to bring people online, more and more people online. Basically, internet has become a very basic resource, and everybody needs it. But there are a lot of parts in the world where people are facing the problem of limited or probably no connectivity at all. But as we know, in the future, internet will be everything, and people should know what is internet and some of the basic concepts about it, like with the very basic one. But people should know what it is. But sadly, due to there being no no connection and all, people are not aware. So this is basically an idea where we can come up with resources such as activities or games through which we can probably teach people about the basic concepts of internet. For example, there was one idea which we did in a local community. What we did was we went to a school. It was a public school where students were probably, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade or something. So they didn't have much exposure to internet. So we were basically there to teach them about the concepts. So we had a task of teaching them how internet works. And there was no connectivity. So what we did was we basically created cardboard cuttings about this is an ISP server, this is a client, this is a server, and we basically stood side by side. And one person he created a cardboard and it was written data on it. So what he did was he went from client to server, from ISP. So that was the way he went about. And basically we were teaching them how data is being transferred, so from client to server. So that was a very generic and very, I don't know, very basic idea, but it was very useful because kids learned how the data works or how the things work on the internet on a very graphical way. So that was easy to grasp. So that was the very basic idea through which we started this thing, maybe this project. This gave rise to many more, when we searched on the internet and where people, when I was working on this idea, many people came forward and shared the resources. If you go on the GitHub page, there is a page called sample activities. Those are some sample activities which people shared, and some of the most of them are from Mozilla page itself, Mozilla learning page itself. But those were quite useful and very useful in this case, basically. So there's where I got the idea for this project. So and another primary primary objective of or the secondary objective of this project is to build up a community which will take this project on a global level, because it has started from one part of the world, but it has to reach everywhere. So to bring it to effect, right? So that is why if we can come up with a community which deals with offline teaching, maybe that can help. Maybe that can help share this, take this project where it is necessary, where people are actually needing this. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know if people I don't know if you got it clearly.
Yeah, thank you, Vishal. Are there any questions about how to teach the web to places where there is no web?
I put a question in the doc. Have you tried this material with different audiences? Because I'd be interested to see how different activities work with different people around the world.
I have the concept of cardboard. I have tried it with I don't know, 2 or 3 times with different audiences. One with school kids, one with college-going kids, and one with. There was one project. There was one session where we took. We basically created a PowerPoint presentation of say important day-to-day activities which deal with internet, such as online banking and online shopping. And that PPT, it was a step-by-step, we jotted down steps and jotted down screenshots. We put together screenshots, and it was basically for housewives or middle-aged women, aged 40 to 55, on that age group of women. So I didn't try the same activity with different age groups, but I tried different activities with different age groups. So which were useful to them.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, thanks, Vishal.
Any other questions? Well, I can ask some questions again. Oh, sorry, I heard something.
No.
Yeah, so I was just saying there is a form, there is a link to a form where you, if you have any ideas or where you can, you have some ideas where you can create more resources on games. If you have come up with something, you can put like fill this form which I've given here, I guess. Yeah, it is in the doc. So you can, it is a Google form, very simple. You can fill it out and maybe you can help.
Okay, yeah. I was actually wondering, so what's kind of the end goal with teaching these people to use the internet? Do you want them to use the internet more, or just be aware of its existence? Like, what benefit do you want them to get out of it?
You start with people should know its existence and how to use internet on a very basic level, because right now, like for example, our grandparents, they are not very technical savvy, so they don't know how to use even a mobile. So maybe through this visual representation of things, or maybe where interactive environment is there, maybe they can learn more easily, and maybe they can start somewhere.
Yeah, okay. And since you were saying that you're doing it in remote areas where there is no web, or at least not that much access to the web, how do you kind of reinforce what they learned? So they go out there, they learn it once when you teach it, and how do they keep remembering it? Or like, will they encounter it more and more? Do you have repeated sessions where you teach people about it? How does that work?
That is the idea of a community. So if there is a community there, or maybe a representative there, someone who can sort of a spokesperson or someone point of contact, maybe that can help for the feedback loop to work. Maybe I guess that is my best guess right now.
Okay, yeah, cool. Any more questions for Vishal before we move on? No? Okay, thank you so much, Vishal. We'll move on to the next project, which now it's Maria Romero and Escuelas, I think it's called, but please correct my pronunciation.
No. Well. Okay. Well, Escuelas is an application which has the mission to improve the academic lives of the students. It allows them to see their academic performance, review and monitor the content of the classes, and it also provides tools such as a netbook and a calendar to have a clear organization of their academic life. The motivation of this app is the school desertion and using the cell phone as a resource of learning and not as a distraction. The main features are a calendar with important dates, the possibility to see the qualification and the no attendance, and a chat room with a pedagogic assistant, like a break room that we have. In the beginning, we just had an idea of what we wanted the app solves. Thanks to the Mozilla program, we were able to have a clear idea not only of what are the main features of our app, but also have a better organization for the app structure. Now we have a repository with all the project information so people can understand the project and help us to build our app. And to build the app, we are looking for developers, designers, experts in education, but everyone is welcome to collaborate ever. And thanks.
That was so good. Thank you for Escuelas.
Yeah, thank you guys. I was just checking out your repository.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions? Again, I can't see people in the chat, so just shout out your question if you have it. Okay, I'll ask a question. So do you have a specific, you mentioned teenager at some point, do you have like a specific, what is it called, level in school in mind? Is it like for high school, when you start university, or does it go across all this?
We are teenagers. We are at the secondary school. the first idea that we had was high school, because we are at the secondary school, but in the future we want to expand in our project for
university,
the primary school or in the university, but first at secondary school or high school.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Any other questions from other people also?
Yeah, me. Sounds like a good project.
Thank you.
What are you thinking? Maybe an iPhone app or an Android or something like that, or just web? Or it's early days.
Again, please, I can't hear.
Are you building an iPhone app or a website?
No, iPhone app.
Nice.
Okay.
So do all your classmates have iPhones?
Teachers think that use the cell phone is a distraction. For that, we would like to
use this app like a tools for the students and
make the cell phone a tool.
Yes, no, the distraction that the teacher said.
Take back the power. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before you're able to build the app, do you have any way of testing like your ideas in terms
paper prototypes or something like that?
Exactly.
Or
do you think you need to do that?
The project is a prototype. No, it isn't a finished app like a product, but we need help to finish it. The Mozilla program collaborate with us because we didn't know about GitHub or the groups that collaborate in projects. It's good.
Well, thank you so much for presenting. Yeah, it's fun to hear about your work.
Thanks.
If anyone has more questions, you can write them in the doc, and it might be easier to reply by text.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Simon, who will talk about what I think is pronounced Datenguide, but correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, good. Please go ahead, Simon. You're still muted.
You're muted.
Simon.
Okay, so I actually made slides. Okay, so yeah, as you very correctly pronounced, the project is called Datenguide, and Datenguide is a project about official statistics. So we're trying to make official statistics more accessible to normal people. Official statistics is basically data or statistical data published by governments and other public bodies, and it's usually about topics from the field of society, the environment, or the economy. And it is usually created by statistical offices on a national and or on a regional level. And the couple of examples of what that could be is, for example, data on schools or data on garbage removal in your area or data on migration in your area, this kind of stuff. And so this is data that is usually collected for policymakers, but it's also very interesting for, say, journalists or civil society organizations. the good news for them is that this is usually open data. That means it's usually available online and it's free for you to reuse it. The problem is that it's usually hidden somewhere in crappy software that is made for bureaucrats by other bureaucrats, and that is not very usable for normal people, such as journalists or civil society organizations. And on top of it, at least in Germany, very often has very bad APIs and not really open and modern data formats. So it's not very easy to reuse this kind of data. And this is where Datenguide comes in, basically. So we are currently working on a better data portal, which is supposed to be basically an easy-to-use website built on top of open source software, using open data formats and providing a modern, easy-to-use API. And so this is the more technical component. And the other component is that we're working on building a community around this topic in Germany, planning workshops for next year, working on tutorials, and we will also organize a 2-day hackathon next year. And so basically this is what we want to do. When we started with the Mozilla's Open Leader program, we just had a bit of software basically that we wrote to work with this kind of data. We've now have more software, which is published on GitHub. We also have, I think, pretty well documented it, and we've started writing a blog in German about this topic on our website, which is also listed here. And we've more recently received a small grant from basically a media innovation grant to actually fund our work on this project. And yeah, next year, as I said, we'll have a hackathon, and we'll hopefully by the end of the year, this year, publish first prototype of our software. Yeah, this is about it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Simon. Any questions from the rest of the cohort before I come with all my questions?
I did put a question in the doc.
Sorry, I should read this more.
It's great that you're developing this for German official statistics. The way it's built, is it possible to fork this for other countries or cities, or is it very dependent on the German infrastructure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a problem with this kind of stuff. So there are other projects like this from other countries. There's one for the US, which is called Census Reporter, which is very similar in what it tries to achieve, but as the administrative system is very different, it's not easy to reuse that. Particularly in Germany, it's very, how do you say that? It's also very specific to local stuff in Germany, like on a very local administrative level. So yeah, what we're building maybe like as a concept, reuse somewhere else, but it's not easy to just throw the website for, say, Belgium or something.
It would be great if there were some like standards here between countries, right? So you could just transfer. I was also wondering that actually it would be cool to have this in other countries also. And another thing I was thinking about, what's would you say there's a clear end goal you have here? Like, is it to just spread awareness about these things? Is it for the public to be able to appreciate more what governmental decisions are made, or is it to somehow influence those decisions? Is there a clear end goal or just a resource?
Yeah, so basically the end goal, so this is the kind of project where the end goal is to get rid of the project entirely, because what we're doing is something that is basically supposed to be done by the statistical offices themselves. So what we're trying to do is basically build a prototype for something that actually the government should provide. And yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Okay, but you're open to them kind of officially taking over this project if that's
Absolutely, yeah. So we're actually talking to them, and we've already had 2 basically day workshops together with them, or with different people in the statistics offices to find out what they could do now, and also for us to better learn what they are doing. And I think first achievement for us is that they actually take us seriously and talk to us.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure. So the way they work, I don't think they will necessarily reuse the software we're building, but maybe I guess that in a couple of years' time, they may be able to build something that builds on similar concepts. So I think the problem with government software, at least in Germany, is that it works very slow. So it's an entirely different thing than what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But still, I hope that we will be able to give something, or to basically to introduce new ideas into this field of government software.
Cool. One thing I was wondering on that also, because you said you would have workshops as well. So part of one thing is making statistic available and showing it to people, and another thing I think is like contextualizing it and explaining to at least to some extent what this means. Is that what you will be doing in these workshops, or is that part of the initiative also to explain the background and like, oh, this and this together means that, or just provide the raw numbers kind of?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a couple of levels. So what we're trying to do with a data portal that we're going to publish is that we try to contextualize data there and explain it. So maybe not necessarily for every single topic, but pick out certain things, explain them, visualize them in a way that actually makes sense, so that people know what this is about. I think the workshops. So with the workshops, we don't necessarily want to like do a statistics 101, but what we want to do there is to introduce the basic concepts of public statistics or official statistics, for people to learn how to use them. So we have this. We thought a lot. So during the past couple of weeks, we thought a lot about our target groups, and so basically the workshops we're planning are aimed at people who don't know much about official statistics yet, and who are also not necessarily technical people. Yeah, so we haven't really completely figured it out, but we'll see.
Okay, yeah, no, it's super interesting. Before we move on, are there any questions from anyone else? I don't see any hands raised either. Okay, thank you so much, Simon. If you want to know more about Data Guide, just follow the links in the Google Docs, and we'll go to the next presenter. So the next one is Shadab, who will talk about open data science. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Shadab. Okay. So when I started open data science, I was having a thought like I will just compile some resources related to data science and machine learning. And from where, if anyone is interested to get started with data science and machine learning field, they will get a clear path how to get started instead of going for the paid boot camps or paid courses. Okay. But while going through whole open leaders program of Mozilla, I refined my thoughts again and again. And then I thought, why just instead of creating the resources, I created a community also of data science and machine learning enthusiasts. And now we are more than 230 plus members. And even I've organized my first workshop also for machine learning crash course, in which I introduced the beginner level and intermediate level participants to the machine learning and its basic mathematical concepts. And more in future, I'm trying to build a community of for those people, like instead of going for the paid courses, paid resources, and going for expensive boot camps and schools, they can collaborate together. They like those who are experts can come and take the workshop or trainings for free for the community members. And this way the members of the community can grow. And even I have the plans to mentor the new tech speakers. Those like in colleges, we have seen many students want to be tech speaker, but they don't know how to get started with, or they don't get a proper mentor who can guide them, who can help them in creating the presentation and all. So even I'm planning to create mentor and create a group of mentor and those tech speaker aspirants, if they need our help, whether they are first time speaker or whether it's kind of similar to Mozilla Tech Speaker program, but Mozilla Tech Speaker program is on a global level. Like everybody cannot get involved in Mozilla Tech Speaker program, right? Only the selected people used to get selected for that. Those who have really highly skilled in such kind of you can say skill sets. Okay, so if in the local community, if someone wants to enhance their speaking skills and they want to take some workshop or give some sessions for the community members, they can reach out to us. So you can see so basically I have collaborated with for now with PyData community. So PyData, if you all would be knowing, is the child company of the NumFocus organization, and NumFocus organization, they basically are the sponsor for the packages like NumPy, Pandas, and Scikit, which are the most commonly used libraries for data analytics field. So I will share my meetup page. Yeah, here we go. So is it visible to you all? Yeah, so you can see for now I have just started with PyData Mysore chapter, and you can see we are already 230 plus members, and we have already hosted our first workshop, which was sponsored by Google. So moreover, we are in touch with IBM and other companies also to get the sponsorship and run our meetups smoothly in the community, so that others who want to learn can come and get these knowledge for free from us. So that's all from us. If any question from me, so even I'm going to roll out volunteer forms, Google Forms also. So we are seeking for website designers. We are seeking for people who can help us in organizing the events. We are seeking for speakers and mentors who can help us in running this community smoothly. So for now, this much I have done, and I will look in future what all I can do more. Okay. So if you have any question for me, just please go ahead.
Cool, thank you, Shadab. That sounds really cool that you become part of PyData. I see you have a question in the notes. It's are you looking for speakers specifically in your area or in general?
So the speakers can be like from data science and machine learning field, those who can take workshops to that particular area, like even they can come and just tell about natural language processing or something like recognizing the hand recognition model and all, or just starting from a very basic workshop. Or those speakers can be just normal motivators who can share the real-time experience and scenarios of data scientists and machine learning engineers in the industry, so that the community members can stay motivated and they can get the real scenario, what is actually going on in the industry.
Okay, and should they be like local to where you live in Mysore, or can they be from anywhere in the world? Or is it like you have physical meetups, right? It's not only via...
Yeah, so currently it's I've just started with Mysore, and PyData is available all around the world. So like I'm planning to go in different parts of my country, only first India, to outreach more and more people. And once I will see how we are doing in India, then we will try to get more volunteers all around the globe. So volunteers can be from anywhere, those who want to take sessions and all. But for meetups, obviously, we need to organize offline sessions, right? So for that, we need local peoples.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the rest of the cohort? Okay, then I'll ask another question. So in terms of, you mentioned that initially you wanted to kind of create almost like a curriculum or like a guide for how to get started with data science.
Yeah.
Are you still trying to do that within the framework of PyData, or is it more now creating communities?
So it's more like creating a community. So to create the community of those data science aspirants and machine learning, those who want to get into that domain, I have opted for PyData. But to create that curriculum and all, I am still stick with the open data science curriculum, which I plan to start. So we are working on it. So I basically work as a data science trainer only. So like I'm just creating the resources so that once all the resources are compiled, then I can roll it out for the community members, basically.
Okay, cool. Have you heard of the Open Data Science Masters?
No. Data Science Incubator, I've heard, not about Open Data Science Masters.
In the comments, and you can look into that. That might be helpful because I think they have similar ideas that you, and maybe there's some synergy where you guys can work together or something.
Yeah, sure. That would be really great.
Yeah, check that out. I'll post it. Cool. Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you so much, Shadab. And we'll move on to the next presenter, which is Sayak, which has the project Help Me Invest.
Hey everyone. So firstly, a bit nervous right now. I don't know why. So okay. To start with a little bit of background, when we started with the Open Leaders, Help Me Invest was nothing more than an idea in my head somewhere, which I started formalizing just a few days before the Open Leaders program started. And ever since then, it has grown into something much more formal than I ever imagined it to be. So it's basically a project that aims to make individuals a bit more aware about what financial investments are, how they work, and what they can like how they can use them to like get the most out of their own resources. So I started with discussing the idea with a few of my friends and family and people all around me. And one of the common things that I noticed was a lot of people, they have good jobs, they earn pretty well. Some people are just getting by with their bare minimum resources. But the common theme everywhere was that not everyone was very aware of what they can do with their resources, how they can make the most of them, and how they can like really use their existing resources to build up uh, a better future for themselves. So that's where this idea started. It started when I started filing my own taxes, and that was a real mess. So that was a real pain point for me as well as my friends. Like, there were so many clauses, there were so many government rules and regulations. You can invest here, you can invest there. You know what? You invest here, you'll get tax exemption. You invest there, you will get some more benefits. And as I talked to more and more people, uh, it seemed that it's not just a problem with me in my area, or rather just me within India, but rather also people from all around the world. Everyone had this fear of uh, tax filing and those financial deadlines and all of these things. And the primary reason was no one was sure exactly how things work. So that's where this idea originated. And over the weeks, I started to like clean it up, formalize it a bit more, and see what we can do about it. So the idea here was that we would leverage the power of the web to create a application which is uh, open source, which keeps the user's data privacy in mind, and also it basically helps people to get a better idea about what they can do about their finances anonymously. Currently, there are a lot of tools in the market which allow you to like get some idea about investment options, what you can do with your money, what you can do with the finances for a fee. There are some applications which are free, but they play around with your with your own data. And we all know, like, not everyone is like, no one is really comfortable sharing their own like financial information with unknown people in the world. So that's where it all started. And fast forward to now, we now have a proper GitHub repository. We now have a proper vision statement. We now have guidelines on how we can get started. So the idea here is we develop a tool which at first we'll be building a website, a Node.js based website, which would allow a user to anonymously put in their finance data, like what their earnings are, what kind of financial options, like what kind of financial state they are in, and the application would by itself give them the best kind of suggestions on what they can do with their money to like get the best kind of tax exemptions or tax benefits or other kinds of benefits based upon whichever region they are in. Now, this is a project which is completely focused on uh, being open source, being made by the community for the community, and the idea is the data about finance, about this financial data would be collectively crowdsourced, so anyone and everyone who is interested in contributing to the project can contribute by adding, say, financial data about taxation laws or investment options, whatever is available in their particular region. And the idea is probably follow the Wikipedia model to create an open database of all these financial options, which can be used for the public, for the greater good of the public. So yeah, if like I've gotten pretty far, but then again, we still have a long way to go. We still don't have the application running in a particular domain. I'm still working with a few friends of mine who are interested in the project on starting the actual development for the project. But we still need a lot of help from the greater community. We still need people who can contribute to us. If you're a designer, you can contribute by helping us with the UI design for the application. If you are a developer, you can like help us with the development of the application itself. Like we need people who are good in, say, JavaScript for front end or Node.js for the backend API servers. If you are a financial whiz, we really need you because um, I have a limited amount of data, so do my friends, but we really need people from all across the world to pour in with their support, as well as submit whatever information they might have about taxation laws, financial laws, investment laws in their own regions. And finally, if you want to help in any other way, like if you want to localize, if you want the application to be localized in your particular language, you can help us because we're just getting started. So you can start helping us right now. If you are in any other field, if you're a lawyer, you can help us with the legal implication of things and so on. Like there's a ton of possibilities. And if you want to help us, you can create an issue on GitHub. You can file issues. You can help us identify use cases. You can help us in a ton of way. If you want to directly reach out to me, you can reach out to me in my email ID or via GitHub and or via Twitter. So yeah, that's it from me. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sayak. It was really interesting. And you got some comments saying exactly that, like super important, financial literacy, and very interesting. And and there's a question there also. Very interesting project. And the person who's writing it says that they expect it to be hard to localize it to other regions, I guess. And how do you approach that?
So localization refers to quite a few things. There is the language translations as well as localization as per regions. By localization, the regional localization, I mean localization about financial laws, investment rules, government regulations in a particular locale or a particular region. So if you don't need to be a financial whiz to be able to contribute. Even if you know, like if you have filed your own taxes or done your own accounts even once, you have at least some idea. Probably you can give us any info that you have about your own region, and we can start building on top of that. So it's both language translations as well as application localization.
Okay, cool. Do we have any more questions from the cohort? I'll do what I usually do and ask some of my questions. So there are, so are you, one thing I was trying to understand is that, is it both in terms of that, oh, I can go to your page and I can get general resources about financing and how tax filing works, and it's also one part where I can upload my own finances and get a personal recommendation? Is that correct?
Yes.
So is one of those arms like more of the focus, or what's the?
So currently what we are thinking about is the core of the application will just be an anonymous form. You just fill in, okay, I earn so and so, I've got so and so financial status, like I've got so many resources, and you say, okay, give me recommendations on what can I do to maximize my resources. And based upon whatever info you put in and your region, it will automatically create a report saying that, okay, you can probably invest in this options, you can probably do this kind of an insurance, you can do this thing with your existing resources, and that's how you can start maximizing your effort, like maximizing your resources. The output right now, what we are thinking is would be an output on a web page, but apart from that, there would be also the option to download it to a PDF document. If you want to create a profile for yourself, probably we might start looking into that later, but in the initial stages, we do not want to save user data, because we know how crawlers and everyone can track data. So we do not want individually identifiable data. So we don't even need your name or email ID. You can directly download it from the page.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's good. Thank you. Now I have more of an idea of like the main workflow of the project as you see it. And I'm just curious, I don't know if this is possible to answer or not, but what level of details are these recommendations? Is it like, oh, you should save money versus invest money, or you should like, oh, you should invest money in this
So
in this
yeah, I can answer this probably in the Indian context. So in India, there are this the tax laws which allow you relaxations against investments, against your provident fund, insurance premiums that you pay for your medical bills or for your parents. Like for all of these things, you get tax exemptions. So in any case, you are going to be paying a particular amount of money as tax to the government, but instead of paying the entirety of the money to the government for taxes and losing out on that particular resource, the government allows you to invest that money for, say, medical insurance or some like educational investments for your children. So say if you're in India and you say that I earn this much money with this and this is my income breakdown, the application would say, so okay, you can invest this much money under Section 80C, you can invest this much money in getting an insurance, you can get if you're interested in mutual funds, you can invest this much money on mutual funds. So it's both about saving money as well as making the most out of the resources, getting the most amount of benefits that you can get.
Okay, that sounds super cool and very helpful. If there are no more questions, or Abby, did you have a question?
I was going to say, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the doc. We should probably move on so that we can finish.
I was just going to say that. Okay, thank you so much, Sayak. And we have 4 more projects to go, so we'll move to the next one. So it's Jona about open source diversity.
Yeah, you were right, it's Jona. So I will just share my screen. Okay, it seems I cannot share my screen, so I will just improvise without my slides, but actually I had some screenshots to show, but it's fine.
If you have a link to them, you can post them afterwards in the doc.
Yeah, I can publish them probably on GitHub, and I can just post the link there.
Yeah.
So the project that I will present now, it's open source diversity. And why we did this is we wanted to have more diversity and inclusion in open source projects. So what is itself open source diversity? We see it as a collective of people who want to push more diversity and inclusion in free and open source software, different communities that we have around. And let's say what we have done, or kind of a product that we wanted to have, is that we have a hub website, opensourcediversity.org, that it's showcasing, let's say, diversity and inclusion initiatives which are already out there. So like we just try to take these projects and publish them on our website, so it can be easier, especially for people that are beginners in open source projects and they don't know like where to start or where to go. I think like it's a nice place with some resources that they can found there. And so it should be an entry point, but both for projects, so they can learn like how to improve. And as I said, for people that are part of underrepresented groups to know how to get involved. Why it's also important for projects is so in this way, like they can see what kind of things they need to have in their projects, so they can lower the barrier, for example, for new people, like having a code of conduct, the README file, and etc. And also something that we try to make a bit more clear is that our project is not only to have more women in open source, but it's like even bigger when we talk about diversity. So like it doesn't matter the gender identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, age, or even including the skill level that people have or their background. Because we really believe that diverse team work better, and this makes the community, open source communities, healthier. So when you check our website, some of the sections that we have tried to include for now, the first one is basics, that is like more for the first steps to help make the open source projects more friendly and inclusive. And as I said, like code of conduct, so they can have starter issues and etc. The next one is regarding projects. So like we have listed some open source projects that support underrepresented groups. And so those people can, let's say, participate there. We have included spaces, so local spaces or meetups, so like everyone can join and work with like-minded people. We have included some programs, so programs that are for mentorship, funding, or networking, like Outreach is one of them, and some others as well. The next section that is regarding events. For the moment, actually, it's to be developed, but for now, we mostly use our Twitter account to, let's say, share the events that we are doing. Mostly the events that we do as open source diversity are in Tirana, where my friend and I are based, but also some other people, our contributors, are also in Berlin. So these two are the cities that we do more events for now. But like if someone else wants to do another event, it's like more than welcome to do it. And the last section is articles, so like some background information on diversity and inclusion in open source that can be helpful for other people. So how people can join? We have our GitHub account that people can join. Mostly we have 2 repos for now. That it's the most important one that we have, like it's for our website, opensourcediversity.org. And the other one is for Code More projects, that is mostly like to list projects and collecting some infos about these projects, how people can start contributing. And also, like, it's very important we have the README, so like people can see how they can start contributing. And it's not only about code, but it's also like for design, or if they know a project that they want to include there, or about other sections that we have, or also to, if they have a new idea for a new section, they are more than welcome to open an issue and post their ideas. And also we have a code of conduct that is based on the contributor governance. The license of course that we use the the content that we publish is Creative Commons attribution share alike. Also same is for the logo and so on. Like you can check all these at the GitHub repo that we have. And another, let's say, communication channel that we have added lately, we wanted, because we were using IRC channel, but you know that it's not very friendly for new people. So we have a discourse forum. So if you go to discourse.opensourcediversity.org, you can join and start with an introduction for yourself, but also if you have any question that you want to add, if you have something to share with the people that are already part of the community or they are helping, you are more than welcome to do so. So yeah, this was the, let's say, kind of an overview. I have posted some links at the document because unfortunately I couldn't share my slides. So I don't know if you have any question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jona. I think you have a couple of comments about how much people love your work in the notes.
Thank you.
And there's one question about an article, but maybe we can take that later because I guess unless you already know it and want to comment on it. Are there any general questions from the cohort? Just unmute yourself and speak. No? Well, I have questions, but I'll try to ask less questions because we also have to get through everyone. So
okay.
I was just wondering, do you have specific criteria for how? Yeah.
Can I encourage you to write your questions in the doc? Because we have 3 more presentations.
Okay. I'll write my questions in the doc.
Okay, let's move on to John with Open Footprint.
Yes, thank you, Jona. Okay, John, go ahead.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm just going to try and just give it a minute. Meeting. Just try and share my screen. Okay, share. Oh, okay, so can everybody see this? Excellent. Okay, so my project is Open Footprint. It's a project to visualize your digital footprint. So the problem is when online, we're constantly asked to share our experiences online, whether it be via the big ones, Google, Twitter, Facebook, Yahoo, not Yahoo, YouTube, Instagram, all the other ones. And then the other ones, like you've got news outlets, you've got Engadget, Kotaku, you have all the others, even like, you know, coffee shops down the road or wherever. So we're constantly battered with like, did you like this coffee? Or did you like this like sandwich that you bought? Like, it's insane. So anyway, the risks of that are that over time, without knowing, we're over time we're creating this digital footprint of ourselves, things that we just take for granted. We just think that's normal. Our locations, where we're going, how long for, things which over time start to like go, oh, why am I doing this? So where we like to hang out, who our friends are, you can kind of see that this online sharing could affect us physically in our offline world. So the solution is this thing which I'm trying to put together called Open Footprint. So it's a browser plugin. It watches over the data you're sharing. It just does a cursory look over to identify all the data, any data, and maybe you're sharing a photo and you don't realize that you're sharing location data on it. Maybe you're messaging someone, a close friend, but you don't realize you actually just went to it's on your Facebook public share, and it helps you decide if you want to share it. So it's not like a big brother. It's like a kind of it just tries to help you out. Hey, you've got this, and it contains what you are, like, do you really want to share this? So it's kind of like a digital safety blanket. So the roadmap is we've just launched a website. We're in development for the plugin, and I hope to get a beta out in early 2019. I'm also planning to do an online safety courses, so on YouTube, and I'm also planning to do offline safety, internet safety or literacy in some of the communities. So in the local library, maybe meetups set up, and yeah, so that's the plan. So that's my roadmap. And anyway, so moving on. So help wanted. I'm looking for any coders if you have experience with building plugins. So if JavaScript is incredibly useful, and I also have Java's experience. So if we want to like work together or anything, or just share knowledge, that'd be great as well. And also feedback. So I have a GitHub repository, so I've already got some like help wanted, good first issue kind of thing on there. So if you want to help out with that, and also funding. So this is a project which I'm doing part-time. So I would love to focus my my efforts on this full-time, but unfortunately I have to pay the rent. So if anyone's got like spare like $1 million, that'd be great. But anyway, so that's that. So anyway, so here's the links. I've got my email address, Twitter, and also the links to the website and the GitHub repository. So they're there, and they're also in the doc. So and yeah, that's me. So any questions?
You have a few questions in the doc.
Ooh, gosh.
Thanks for that super speedy share. Hugely appreciate it.
Okay.
And I think to give us time for the last two presentations, we'll move on, but please ask your questions in the doc and John will get to those.
Yeah, anything. Yeah. Any questions?
I put all my questions in the doc. Thank you so much, John.
Okay.
Okay, the next presenter is Elpiniki, I think, with MLes, Open Practice for Machine Learning on Energy Systems. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so actually I will share my screen.
John, can you stop sharing your screen? And Elpiniki, you should be able to share it even though John is sharing, actually.
You can.
John, you're still sharing. Okay, there we go. And Elpiniki, there should be a big green button at the bottom there. Perfect. We're good.
Good? Okay. So you can see my screen now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So a little bit about how this project started. So my background is electrical engineer and I'm working on renewable energy systems. So as an electrical engineer, I didn't have the chance a lot to work on machine learning, but now I'm doing a postdoc at UC Berkeley where I had to process a lot of data and I realized how machine learning important is. And So while we move towards a modern power system, we are collecting data for many different sources. For example, from wind turbines or from cars or from our houses, we have smart meters to see how much energy we use and when. So with all this data, we understand that machine learning is very important. And the fact that machine learning was something new for me, and I realized that I am not able to find a tool or something that will help me to apply machine learning for energy systems. I realized that it would be a cool idea to build an educational material, open, that will focus on machine learning for energy systems. So the objective of this project is to have a set of problems on GitHub that will focus mostly on practice rather than in theory. So I try to provide some code and data for very simple problems. So mostly, I guess, students or researchers who hasn't done machine learning before, they will be able to apply these pieces of code to their problems or whatever they want to solve. So as the first lesson of this open practice material is focused on wind energy. So I was able to create this first lesson, and here I will show you my GitHub. So we have lesson 1 on GitHub, which here's the whole project description, and then here we have lesson 1, and then in lesson 1, inside lesson 1, we have files that have data, code, and a PDF, which doesn't have a lot of theory, but it's just the basic, what we want to solve through this lesson. So each lesson is going to be one problem. So here is which I'm not going to go into the detail, but this is for lesson 1, the presentation, that we want to forecast wind power output when we know the wind speed. And I'm just describing why do we need to do this and what we expect from the wind turbine, where I found the data, which are open source, and then an overview of what this lesson does and what this machine learning technique, what we can do with machine learning to forecast the wind and how we can do that. When we have power generation, wind speed, we create the model, and then we test and validate our model. So I provide the time series data here. Here I have, then I have another file that just, it's called data discovery. So we just process the data to see, to understand the data as a first step. And then I have all the machine learning application, Jupyter Notebook, so a student or a researcher can just try to run this and see through this machine learning application some results and some graphs and see how the prediction follows the real the real data and see which tool is the best for this application. Going back here, so I focused on wind. I'm glad that I had the chance also to present that at MozFest in London with Athena, where we explore how machine learning can be used in any field, actually. And my objective for future is to have more contributors in other fields. For example, if someone works in solar and he wants to do a small application about machine learning, how machine learning is used in solar, and put this as a lesson on GitHub, it would be great. The good news is that I've already found 2 new contributors, and one is a professor at the Cal State University, and another is a PhD student that they are really happy about this tool and they would like to contribute lessons on that. And also we are considering to write a publication for open education and have this material published as a journal so people can cite it, people can use it for open source for educational purposes. Thank you very much. So any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation. I think, as before, if you have questions, please write them in the doc. That's what I'm about to do, and we'll move on to the next presenter. Sorry, that's Nikos. Please go ahead, Nikos. Last presenter.
Hi, I'm Nikos from Greece, and I'm a physicist in special education. Throughout our project, we want to promote inclusive STEM education by creating tactile material primarily for students with visual impairment. So far, we have organized 5 student workshops, and our students have drawn, created, and evaluated material like this animal cell, or this plant cell, or even this pattern rings with structure for the inner structure of planets and moon, associated also with braille plates that can be used. All the tactile materials are free of use, of course, and freely available through the project websites. And please do support our projects. We want to take it national or even in an international level. And they're working open, and together is our future. Children are our future now, and Mozilla rules. Thank you.
Oh man, I really appreciate the speedy but very effective. I love those little sounds. That was great.
Perfect.
So
thank you.
before everyone jumps, I think we should do a little graduating class photo. If you want to be part of this, please unface mute if you want to be part of this picture. And we'll just,
video.
Yeah, we'll get this in right before the end of the call. I think it's the end of the call now, but I think we're pretty good. What do you want to do in the picture, Joel? I'll let you decide.
Sorry?
What should we do in the photo?
I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know what a WOLObie is, or what a WOLObie is.
Kind of kangaroo.
But how do we like? What do kangaroos do? Okay.
I'm not gonna force people to do that.
Okay, ready? Taking the picture. 3,
We'll do the wave.
2, 1. Very nice. Thanks for sticking to the end. And huge congrats on graduating and all your projects. We'll be sharing out these recordings and this doc, so you may still get more questions and more stuff later. But congratulations, everyone. You'll be getting certificates probably next week.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. I thought it was super interesting to hear all your projects today, and also to follow them and take part of your ideas on the different topics we had. So I've had a lot of fun and an educational experience myself. I hope you all had the same thing, although probably in different ways. And Abby, do you have some parting words? My parting words are just thank you for being part of this program.
I think I already said mine. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
We just snuck in there and almost on time.
Sorry, I thought so many interesting things to ask questions about.
No, I get it. Cool. I'm not sure if did we stop streaming, Andy? I'm gonna assume we did. But yeah, if anyone has more questions, I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. Okay, or maybe I'll just put Andy on hold. Oh, I can't put him on hold with drag.